Unity in all that we do.
Hey, welcome everybody to Drunk Dudes in a Gun Room. Today's episode is brought to you by Operation Encore. They are a 501c nonprofit. You can learn all about the great things they're doing for veterans and the music industry over at operationencore.org. If you can help them out, just hit that little donate button and they would definitely appreciate the help. Or you can just follow their social media and watch how they are turning veterans into rock stars. Hey, today I have got Jay Watson and Kyle Wiltshire. They are professional communicators for over 20 years. They have an extensive background in storytelling, humor, and all other things entertainment. They are authors with the book that is coming out, Dead Rock Stars. Let's bring on Kyle and Jay.
Hey.
What's up, man?
Hey, what's up?
Good. So why don't we start out? Why don't you guys introduce yourself and give everybody a little bit of a background, man, where you guys grew up and how you met and how did the idea for this book come from, man?
Sure. Yeah. I grew up all over the Southeast, born in Texas. 2 weeks later, moved to New Orleans, Louisiana. That's the place I called home for almost 12 years. Then moved to Memphis. So kind of all over the Southeast. That's my home, my background, and a lot of that has poured a lot of itself into me, into who I am. And Jay and I met in college, but I'll let him share a little bit more about himself.
All right.
I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. I grew up here, born and raised. My family, we're one of the few people that are actually from Nashville around here, which is kind of surprising. Everybody from California and Chicago have moved in, but we're unicorns. We're actually from this place, and we grew up here and loved it. And Kyle and I met in college. I'm a year older than Kyle, and much older, and so. We met at Union University in Jackson, Tennessee, which is about 80 miles from Memphis, 120 miles from Nashville. And Kyle and I became fast friends pretty quick. He's got a good story he likes to tell about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, Jay and I are in so many ways complementary. Let's put it that way. We're complementary parts to one another. So that's another way of saying we're opposite of each other. He's an extrovert. I'm an introvert. You know, he's an entrepreneur, and I'm a scaredy cat. You know, So in so many ways, we complement one another so well, though. But so yeah, I was a freshman in college, sitting in my dorm room, and I'm watching television, and I'm just hanging out. And I hear a knock on my door, bang, 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 and I wasn't expecting company or whatever, so I go open the door. It's Jay Watson. We had met one another. We kind of knew, but we weren't like close buddies or anything. And so I was like, hey, Jay, what's up? And, basically what he said, I don't think he actually used these words, but basically what he said was, hey, we're going to be friends. Come out of this room. Let's do something together. And so, yeah, from that day on, it was like, this is my guy right here. This is my buddy. And so, yeah, we've been connected ever since that day, sometime in the fall of 1996. Been just tight as can be ever since.
That's awesome, man. So what were you guys going to college for? What was it? I'm sure it wasn't to be an author or something. So
since I was young, I think it was probably, I'm a child of the 80s and 90s. And for me, Johnny Carson Late at Night was one of the coolest things ever. And then Arsenio Hall showed up and I wanted to be Carsenio. I wanted to be, just a combination of both of those, like Dana Carvey, and just loved everything about talk show. And so I wanted to be a talk show host. So I went to Union University to get a broadcasting degree to do that very thing. And loved everything about it. But I've used my communication degree quite a bit in my life, but haven't made it quite to talk show host yet. So maybe one day.
Maybe I'm going to tell you, I can agree with you. I remember as a kid watching, the Tonight Show and everything else that my dad forced us to watch. And I do relate. Some of it was really entertaining. And things like Saturday Night Live came out and yeah, I was hooked as well, whatever happened to good TV like that? I mean, I don't even watch TV anymore. They need to bring that stuff back.
It's sad. It is in a sad state for sure. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, but I agree.
I love television, love everything about it. And I tried to watch a network television drama a couple weeks ago, just a regular like show, like something you would see at 9 o'clock on whatever. And it was so formulaic and it was so predictable that I was like, this is what has happened to broadcast television. What is this? And I went straight back to Netflix after that. So
yeah, it's now reality TV. My mom is hooked on anything that is reality.
Which couldn't be farther from reality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You know, if it's a game show or some sort of reality TV, and she loves this new cable porn is what I call it. What is it? The Bachelorette and the Bachelor and all that stuff.
Oh, gracious.
I'm just like, wow. So we're really gonna go on a show and in 30 days later get married.
Now, the second season of Survivor, Kyle and I were in graduate school, and we used to get together with a group of 10 or 12 people.
Yeah, about.
And we would watch Survivor, and then after it was over with, based on who got voted off, we were either the happiest or we were devastated. Like, it was a big deal. Do you remember the night when Kentucky Raj got voted off on season 2 of Survivor, Kyle?
Oh, absolutely. You mourned. You went in sackcloth and ashes.
Yeah, I think Greg Jackson ripped his shirt off. He went outside and ripped his shirt off. He was so upset.
We were so sad. That was before they actually knew what they were doing, like it was still so early and there was really some still authenticity and genuineness to the show, and they didn't have like, a million ways to survive the show. Like, you get voted off, you're done, so yeah, it was, those were the days. It was great. And, some of those people went on to be like pretty big stars.
Celebrities.
Elizabeth Hasselbeck was on that show that season. So,
who is it? Who is it they consider like the king? Rob and his wife that he ended up marrying.
Amber. Rob and Amber.
Boston Rob.
Yep. So
that dude's a boss.
I actually like that dude. That dude was pretty funny, But I don't think they realize it now because we still watch Survivor every year too. And I think people haven't caught on yet that the biggest star that's on every season isn't just the host, but it's the same snake that's crawling.
He's had 50 seasons worth of viewing right there.
That's great.
But no, I agree. I love that too. And I'm not gonna lie. The only other one I really got into was Fear Factor. I did like some Fear Factor as well. Especially when Joe Rogan was the host, because he was just like, "What are you idiots doing? Don't eat that."
Yeah.
There's only so many bugs you can eat before it's like, that's enough. That's too much.
Yeah, no, that's nightmare fuel is what that is. I did watch The Amazing Race like 2 seasons, and then it was like, okay, so they're getting in a cab, now they're getting in a plane. Okay, I think I understand how this show works. So
yeah. My mom's so she's 84, and on every night at like 8 o'clock is bedtime, except nights that The Amazing Race comes on. If it was 1 a.m, she could make it. I'll staying up to watch Amazing.
That's great.
Dancing with the Stars, boy, she's a fan of that too. Yeah, there's definitely some interesting stuff out there. So you guys ended up getting out of college. You guys just stayed in touch, or did you? How did the writing part of this come from?
Yeah, we did. We stayed in touch, and so much of our writing story is because we stayed in touch. We moved to different places, and I'm here in the Nashville area as well now. I didn't say that earlier, but
okay.
But when we'd commute, we'd be on the phone with one another, and we always, sort of felt like whatever show we were watching, whatever movie we'd seen, whatever it is, we always sort of felt like, we can do this, because we'd spend the drive just picking apart, the plot and what we would have done different. And it's, it's what all nerds do. Think, well, I could do that. Maybe I can even do that better, and so that's kind of what birthed the desire to do this in us is that, well, we say we can do this. Maybe we can. Let's give it a shot.
Yeah. So is this your guys' first book? I meant to ask, is this the first book you guys have wrote, or?
It's our first book together. We're pretty excited about it. It was Kyle is always the idea guy. Like he's always got a million ideas, and they're always pretty good ideas. Like you hear him, you're like, oh, that's really well thought out. That's well conceived. And we were those closet nerds who maybe when we were younger didn't quite show how nerdy we were, but as being a nerd got cooler. People started asking us about comic books. Like I got to, comic book movies, Marvel stuff. I got to be like, well, yeah, I've read them all. And yeah, I've read a bunch of them. And, and as we start to talk about it, we really started to pick apart things that we liked. And the more we pick them apart, we'd be like, why did they do this? Or why was this plot this way? And so we always joked, like everybody does, we should write our own story. We should write our own book, our own movie. And, everybody says that. That's something that people say. And, one day, Kyle, I was driving, and I remember the Sonic drive-in that I was at, about to pull into get my Route 44 in the morning. Would never drink coffee, but I drink about 6 gallons of Diet Dr. Pepper every day, so it's totally different. But I was pulling in, and Kyle was saying, I had this idea, and he started telling me about this universe, and he talked about this world that he was doing, and I'll let Kyle kind of give that pitch.
Yeah, so I'd had this idea for a long time. I think the genesis of the story was I was in an airport and waiting for a flight, and I picked up a newspaper, and there was this story about an airplane that crashed in the swamp, like in Louisiana, and like they never found it. Like they never found the airplane. It just crashed in the swamp, submerged, and it's in a place where they could not bring it up. And so my wheels just got turning, and I was like, what if those people, what if all that was a fake? What if they got out of the plane before it sunk? Or, what if they faked their deaths? What if they're secret agents? And then that just kind of got my mind turning and spinning. And I was like, what if we could create a story about secret agents? But what if they were like people we already know? What if they're rock stars? What if they're, these people who have, real people who have tragically gone, died too soon. What if they actually faked their deaths and they became secret agents? And so I kind of pitched that to Jay as sort of this, idea thing I've been rolling around in my head. And Jay said, what did you say, Jay?
We're getting good at this, man. We're getting good at this pitch. I said, Kyle, I do not think that's $1 million idea. I think that is $1 billion universe, because it could go in any direction. Think about all the people that have been pop culture that we celebrate, that we adore, that we, if you've been through Memphis at all, that there's still only one king that's in Memphis, and it's not Jerry Lawler. Like, it is Elvis Presley. He is everywhere. He is inescapable.
Hey, have you ever wanted to be a part of this show? You now have the opportunity to be a part of the Two Drunk Dudes in a Gunroom show. We have worked with a nonprofit that is starting called Heroes Voices Media Foundation. We are trying to help this foundation get built. You can be a part of it by sponsoring our show. Go to twodrunkdudesinAgunroom.com. Sponsor the show, and you will be a part of an amazing organization that will be helping veterans. Thank you. Now let's get back to the show.
We just thought about, what if we could take these people that we celebrate, and what if we could create a world where they got another chance, and in that chance, the world gave them so much. Now they get to give back to the world. And if you think about Elvis Presley, if you know anything about his history, he really did want to be a secret agent. Like, that was a part of his story. Like, he wanted to be drug enforcement agent. He wanted to be, he's got all these badges that are at Graceland hanging on the wall, and all these guns that he had. He could come on the podcast, but we started talking about this world, and I was just like, man, this could go in any direction. This is an amazing idea. And what's more fun than like secret agent stuff, Men in Black, the Kingsman, all these things. And what if we made a world that was like that, but way cooler, way more fun, way more like ridiculous in a lot of ways? And who would be our Super Friends team? You know, who would be the people on this team that would be saving the world? And like, what would they do? Well, you got to have a weapons expert. You got to have a hand-to-hand combat expert. You got to have a communications expert. You have to have the tech whiz. You have to have the wheel man. You have to have all these different specialists. So who would they be, and why would they be that way? And so from there, we kind of began to create this world, and it was kind of crazy because we'd never done anything like this. And you start to go, well, what are we going to do? Well, the thing we wanted to make a movie. We didn't know how to make a movie. So we're like, well, let's just write a book. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, we've read lots of those over the years. Just do what they did, just try to put it on the page. Yeah.
There's a beginning and then there's the end, and we'll put stuff in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got together. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, I've had several authors on here, and your guys' line is definitely something I could see as a movie. I mean, this would definitely make a great series. And I've had, like I said, I've had several authors. I had a gentleman on here. His name is Dick Wybrow. And the stories that he comes up with, I'm just like, there's got to be some acid or something that goes along with this story, because I mean, like his latest book, it's called Cain, and it's not a werewolf, it's a wolfwere. And it's about a guy that bit a wolf, and then the wolf turned into a man, and now it's trying to go back to being a wolf. And I'm like, yeah, there's definitely there's got to be some, but it's a great book, and all of his, he's got, I don't know how many books on Amazon, but they're all similar to that. There was another one about a guy that he was living in the middle of the zombie world, and he got bit. And he was just going to give in and commit suicide. And he broke into a pharmacy, and the pills he took ended up being Viagra. And so he tried to overdose on Viagra. And because of that, all the blood rushed to another part of his body, which prevented him from completely turning. So now, as long as he's got that sword down there, he's good to go, and he doesn't turn it. And he's trying to get a cure and get everybody brought. I mean, these are some really crazy things, but they
what's this guy's name? I'm trying to find him on Amazon right now. Like, I think he's got a new fan.
Dick Wybrow is his name. The latest book is called Cain. That one I was just telling you about was one of his older books, and he wrote it because his wife like dared him, and he was like talking about how 50 Shades of Grey sucked, and he was bitching about how can you come up with something like that and make $1 million. And so she was like, well, why don't you just write a book? And he started talking this mumbly stuff, and she's like, well, that'll never sell. And so he just wrote it just to publish it himself, just to prove her wrong. And that's what started his.
This guy's like got 286 reviews on Amazon. He's got a series on wolfware. Let's do this, Kyle.
So yeah, absolutely. But I still don't see that as a movie like when I read about your guys' book, because I can picture that as a movie. So let's say that happens, right? Who would you want to be playing some of these guys, and how would you want it to be a series, or would you want it to be a full-length movie? How do you see it going?
I wish, Donald, that we can admit to you that this is the first time we've ever thought about this, but I'm pretty sure that's where we started writing this.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know the right answer. The right answer for today is probably, put it on Netflix. That's the thing. But man, I love movies. I'd want to be a movie. I wouldn't, even though you could, probably tell the story more in depth that you'd want to on like a 6 episode show on Netflix, whatever. It's still just give me a 2-hour movie. That's really where my heart starts beating fast a little bit.
I tell you what, though, I really like Apple TV. They're doing these 5 and 6 episode seasons. And that's kind of interesting to me. I mean, you could really take a book. I don't think we're too choosy, to be honest with you, Don. Like, if somebody said, "Hey, we want the rights and we're going to make something," we'd be like,
yes,
you okay?
Let's talk. Yeah, we'll talk. Yeah,
we definitely wrote it like a movie, though, and we had some great ideas for some actors and actresses. Who do we say? who do we say was? Remember some of the ones we talked about? Like, let's talk about some of the
Sure.
ones we like. What about
Yeah,
Buddy Holly? Do we have a Buddy?
Oh, I've got an idea for Buddy. Yeah,
Who
I've
you
thought
got?
a lot about this. I think Matthew McConaughey would be the perfect buddy
All right.
because
Yeah.
he's Texan.
Wow.
You know, I mean, he's a big star, but I think he would nail Buddy Holly. He'd have the spirit. He could imbibe the spirit, and we'll have to spoil a little bit in terms of like who's in our book. You know, a little bit as we talk through this, but that's totally fine. I don't think that'll discourage anybody from wanting to read it.
Didn't we say that we wanted Jack Black to be Jerry Garcia?
Jerry Garcia. That's
Yeah.
If you've seen him lately,
I
he's got
can see
that big white beard, and I mean, he looks like Jerry Garcia toward the end of Garcia's life for sure. Yeah, Jack Black
I
would be
definitely
perfect.
didn't see Matthew McConaughey come. I didn't see that coming, so that was a shock.
What about
Yeah.
What about who did we say was Kurt Cobain? Who's Kurt?
Well, I think your suggestion was the Winter Soldier. What's his name? The guy that played.
Oh yes, Sebastian Stan.
Seabass. Yes, Sebastian
Yeah.
Stan. Yeah, I think he'd be a good Kurt Cobain.
The future Luke Skywalker, right there for sure.
That's right. Yeah, just have to give him blonde hair. Make him a little different.
Well,
but
CGI, we'll CGI the blonde
Yeah.
hair in.
Of course, Yeah, go ahead.
The other thing I just keep picturing, because you were talking about Men in Black and you were using Elvis, is that part where he says something about Elvis is dead. We're talking about his clothes, and he says, "No, he's not. He just went home."
He just
And
went
now
home.
I'm picturing he's like, man, so he's not an alien. He actually is a special agent.
And in our
That's
story,
right.
our story takes place in 1999. So he's actually around 60 for this story, which made us really think about who he could be in a movie. And so we started thinking about that, and we're like, okay, one of the things that like helped us a little bit as we started to think about who these people would be like at this particular time in their life was we thought about actors that played that part previously. And so for Elvis, one of the ideas we had was Kurt Russell. One of Kurt Russell's first roles was to play Elvis in a TV movie. And so we thought about that. And then we've talked about a couple other people for Elvis. I had the idea of George Clooney. I thought George would be pretty cool. Little Ocean's 11 Elvis. I could see him, playing it deadpan, trying to be serious. And then Kyle had a pretty great idea for Elvis.
I mean, I think our Elvis is Robert Downey Jr. Again, you got to shoot for the stars. But if you watch Robert Downey Jr. in any role other than Iron Man, like he's doing a voice. If it's Sherlock Holmes, if it's the Tropic Thunder role, he did 3 or 4 voices, and he's so good at them. Like he can really do an accent, and so I think he could do the Elvis accent and not oh, I want a jelly donut, like do the over the top, kind of making fun of him, like you see so many other actors do, or when they parody him or whatever. I think he could do it where it would be believable, but it'd be funny and be good at the same time. So Robert Downey Jr. is my dream to play Elvis.
I'm really proud of us for not quoting Tropic Thunder in any time we brought up Robert Downey Jr. so far. We've done a really good job of avoiding that. John Lennon, I think you said was Jude Law. I thought that was
Jude
a pretty
Law
interesting pick there.
Yeah, Jude Law. I think would be
And
a good job.
then for our
He's
new
English.
character that we've created, what's that?
He's English,
Oh yeah. We created a new character for this story so we could kind of view the world through his eyes kind of for the first time. I think that's always, Kyle's said this before, but like Harry Potter, the thing that makes the Harry Potter world so wonderful is Harry doesn't know anything about anything, and he's seeing everything for the first time. And so for us, we invented this new character who gets to look into the DRS world, the universe, and he gets to kind of see it with fresh eyes and kind of excitement. The more he discovers, the more questions he has, and the more excited he is to meet people. And I don't remember who we landed on for him either. Who do we talk about, Kyle? You remember this stuff better than me.
I think we need an unknown. If we're gonna have big stars, playing all the other roles, you need an unknown, because his name is Cole Denton. Is the character's name, and he comes into the team. He's recruited into the Dead Rockstars team as an outsider, as not a rock star. So just kind of the premise of her story is the team, the Dead Rockstars team, discovers that there's something sinister happening in the world, and they're ill-equipped to take care of it. They need to look beyond their traditional, methods. And so at the turn of the century, You know, who were the rock stars then? It's all the people that are, you know, moving and shaking now, you know, people that run the world now. So you're talking Mark Zuckerberg and, you know, Elon Musk, and those guys were in their younger days, you know, that are running things now. They looked ahead and they saw, hey, the future is technology. We need somebody who understands technology at the cusp of it. And so that's who Cole Denton is. He's a technology rock star, but not a not a musician at all. And so he gets brought into the world, and, you know, you see the world of the dead rock stars through his eyes, because he's an outsider. He doesn't know the language. He doesn't know the procedures and so forth. And so he has to learn it as you are learning it as a reader. So it's kind of cool to see the world as and experience it as he experiences it.
I mean, I picture Vin Diesel watching this episode and sitting on the edge of his seat going, this could be me. This could, technology. No, it's not me.
We'll throw an X in the name. We'll put an X in it. It'll be the Dead X Rock Stars, and it'll be ready to
go. Yeah, man. I was there with the recruiting. I was like, this is Vin Diesel. This is nope, technology. No, it's not him.
Well, you know, like the Fast and the Furious, our team has a deep sense of family. It's all about family, you know. So
there you go, man.
There's a tie. There's a tie.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm gonna tell you, man. This would be. I would love to watch this movie. I would buy this. I definitely would. This would go in my little Apple library, and I would definitely buy this, because I just picture so many people who are, you know, my age or even a little bit older, and they remember watching these guys growing up, and then there's always controversy and about how their death was and what really happened. You know, I mean, look how long people have said Elvis is alive, and I mean, there's people out there that legitimately probably do believe that, and this would be like them being able to relive some of those moments, and then adding some imagination to what these guys could be doing if they were alive. So I think you guys are onto a huge hit. I really do. And the book the books hasn't quite gone live yet, right? Is it next week that it goes live?
It is out. No, it came out November 14th. It just released. So it is available everywhere books are sold. Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, if anybody that's in the movies, they need to read this, and it needs to happen, you know, because some of us are not readers. It would take me probably a long time to get all the way through a book. So maybe for people like me, we need to have that movie. It needs to happen, man.
Well, the good news for you, Don, is that we have a friend who is very intelligent and very gifted as a human, just like you are in all your entrepreneurial areas and the way you're helping veterans. But he hates to read, and he made it through our book in a little over a week, and it was a big deal for him. And so we wrote this book on my reading level, which means it's pretty low level, and anybody can get through it at a pretty good pace. I have another friend that he's a music producer, and he hasn't read an actual book in years, and he was flying through it. So I think you could do this, man. I think you could make it happen. And if you can't, wait a couple months and we'll have it out on audiobook, and you'll be good to go.
Well, I will definitely be buying the book. So
Awesome.
I definitely will also have to get your guys' address and send the book to you so you can sign it for me as well. But I definitely will be buying it.
Well, not to be too self-promoting, but we have our own website, and if you order the book from our website, the deadrockstarsbook.com, we'll send you an autographed copy, special edition with a seal and everything. So that's the only place you can get that one.
That will happen tonight. That's a done deal. So
all right.
No, absolutely. And you know, not to change off the topic of the book, but when you guys went in and you started actually writing the book, so I wrote a book that I'm on the fence of even whether I'm going to publish it. It was mostly wrote for my kids, and kind of gave them some concept and some ideas of things that were happening to me when I was coming out of the military, and just trying to put some answers to them. But, you know, that was me writing about my life, and I struggled. You know, one days I was like, man, did I really do that? And other days I was like, yeah, he's pretty boring. Good job. What are you trying to put here, buddy? And so,
Yeah.
I mean, I struggled with that. I couldn't even imagine trying to put two people's ideas together into a book, because people don't realize how hard it is to write a book. I learned real quick, this is not easy. How did
Kyle and
you guys maneuver that?
Yeah, Kyle and I, we've been the best of friends since 1996, and so
Mhm.
um, we're communicators. We do a lot of that kind of stuff with our jobs and our life, and so because of that, I think we both were keenly aware of our giftings and our talents and kind of what we're able to do, and there's a lot of respect for each other. And
That's
so,
good.
in our particular instance of this partnership, we trusted each other a lot. We trusted each other's ideas a lot. And so we were able to work together in such a way where two people were way better than one when it came to this. I think about things when it comes to comedy, when it thinks to action, when it thinks to,
Mhm.
is the story funny or not? Is the dialogue, does it make sense? And Kyle thinks about those things too, but Kyle is a much more methodical, chronological, how does the story continuity all fit together?
Mhm.
What happens? I'm a little bit more outside the box, and sometimes my ideas are horrible and they don't make any sense. And
Right.
Kyle's able to go, hey, this is where we're going, this is what we're doing. And the two of us together were really able to kind of keep things on the rails in such a way where when we were done, we were really proud of what we accomplished, because for all the stories that we picked apart and said there was continuity errors or there's plot holes or why did they bring this up and never deal with it again, like we were able to spend enough time and you know, the pandemic was difficult for a lot of people. You mentioned kind of some of your changes and moving and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff because of that. For us, it gave us time to deal with a passion project that we would have never normally had time to do. And so
Yeah.
we took our time and we wrote over a period of 3 years. But when we got to 2020, we had already written a good bit of it and it was like, all right, let's finish this. And I think we knocked out the last third of this book in like 6 weeks, didn't we, man, during the pandemic?
Wow.
Yeah, when we were sitting home, everyone's locked in their houses. That's kind of what we did with our time. And yeah, I mean, I think we are just really complementary parts for one another. In the areas that he's really strong, I struggle. In the areas that I am really strong, he's not as strong as. So we really make a whole. But the process was on top of all that, it was just really fun,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and our aspiration wasn't like, I mean, we wanted to write a book, and whatever comes with it, that we're excited for that.
We kind of had
But
two goals, right, Kyle?
that's right. We wanted to finish, we wanted to get it published, and we wanted to break even for all the expense that it costs. So we're still on the way to the goal number 2. We're still working toward that breaking even part. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the process was really fun because, after the initial idea, I kind of shared that with Jay. Jay was like, let's do this. And we got together. We on a board, we listed out sort of, here's where we want to start, here's where we want to finish. Where do we go from there? Again, I'm the hesitant one. I'm the slow. And Jay's like, let's go. So he wrote the first 2 chapters and I read them. I was like, this is so good. We got to do this. So I wrote the next 2. And then, it's really a cool thing that we just assigned it out. We knew generally where we wanted to go.
Mhm.
And he wrote a chapter, I wrote a chapter, and then we'd exchange and we'd read each other's chapters and we'd change a few things. We'd talk about a few things, we'd argue over a few things sometimes, but ultimately, like any partnership, whether it's, a marriage or a business or coworkers or whatever, you have to compromise. No
Right.
one can have their way all the time. And so we're like, well, let's think about and let's decide what is best for the story. And knowing that was our goal for both of us, like, all we care about is that this is what's best for the story.
Yeah.
That made me trust him, and I think it made him trust me to go. That's our number one goal. We don't care, who gets this or that. It's like our who gets the credit. I mean, our names are both on the cover, and his name comes before mine because J comes before K. Okay, WA comes before WI.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's no like, we're 50-50 all the way.
Yeah.
And so that's the beautiful thing is, like, I can look at a chapter and I wrote the original draft on this chapter, but he spoke into every chapter that I wrote, and I spoke into every chapter that he wrote, so that it truly is our story. It is our story that we created together.
And I think that's cool because not only do you guys know each other, but it sounds like to me you guys really know yourselves too. And like you were saying, you know what your strength is. He knows what his strengths are. You guys know your weaknesses, which allowed you to be open and able to complement each other versus some people that would look at this as, I don't want to share my weakness, and I want to bully my way into to hiding these weaknesses, and so the fact that you guys had the end goal and you cared about the quality of the book and the story more than the credit and everything else, and then like you said, plus just knowing each other so well, it makes complete sense the way you guys did it. And I bet you that the way you guys were alternating chapters, I bet you a lot of times those chapters would bleed right into each other without you guys probably even having to talk, because you kind of knew how each other was going to look and what they were looking for. I bet you that happened quite a bit too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I kind of want to, if it's okay, I want to kind of jump back to where we're talking about putting the story together. If it's okay, Donald, real quick. I think this is a really important question for life when it comes to, some of the things that you do with your veterans. And, I don't know if you have spent time talking about PTSD or talking about, kind of getting back into the world, society, and what it looks like. Sometimes it feels overwhelming, and it's not that it's a lot harder scale, right? It's a lot more complicated issue, but it's a similar, if you wanted to make a parallel of what it's like to write a book, we wrote 100,000 words for this book, and you hear about something like that and you're like, how do you accomplish that? And so one of the favorite questions that I like to ask about anybody when they're trying to tackle a problem that they don't know how to do because it seems too big is ask the question, how do you eat an elephant? I don't know if you've heard that question or if anybody else, but like, it's a great question to ask in any part of your life, because, you don't eat an elephant by cutting it in half and cramming it in. Like, it's one bite at a time. And so for us, you don't think about 100,000 words. You think about, okay, we have a story. The story starts here. We want the story to end here. How do we make this long? How do we do chapters and chapters and chapters? And so we look at other people's books and we look at other things. One of the books we looked at was the first Harry Potter book, and it had like 30 something chapters, and it was so many pages, so many words. And we thought to ourselves, okay, that's kind of a guide rail. So we went on a whiteboard, we took a Post-it note, a yellow Post-it note, and we write one idea and one thing that was going to happen in the chapter. And we began putting the sticky notes on the whiteboard in such a way where we started to come up with a grid of how we were going to eat the elephant, one chapter at a time, one idea at a time. And as we did that, it started to become a lot easier to think about how we were going to accomplish this goal. I think that's great for life. You don't go, okay, how am I going to become a millionaire? Well, I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm just going to say, I'm going to declare to the world I'm a millionaire. No, like it takes, it's $1 at a time. It's one step at a time. And so we didn't set out with this aspiration of making the greatest story of all time. We were like, we're going to tell a story. How do you tell a story? Well, it starts with a beginning and starts with an end. And we're going to make these things connect in such a way where it's an interesting ride. And even some of the things that we came up with after we had written the story, simply so that it would make more sense. And so chapters would get added in between. And so it wasn't linear. It wasn't chronological. It was, okay, we know what we want to do. Okay, we need this, we need this, we need that. Okay, what if we move these things around? And it wasn't particularly clean. It was messy, but it was one bite at a time. And that's a really helpful thing for not just writing a book, but for life, I think.
Hey, let me tell you guys about an amazing organization that is being built right now. It is called Heroes Voices Media Foundation, and it is an organization that is using media to help veterans express themselves and tell their stories using media, as in podcasting, like the Two Drunk Dudes in a Gunroom show. It is also using music, like Gunroom Radio. And it is also using books like what is coming soon with Warrior Words. So if you would like to help, go check out Heroes Voice Media Foundation.org. You can find it at our Facebook page, and you can also find it in the description of this episode. So let's get back to the show.
A good bit of it and was like, all right, let's finish this. And I think we knocked out the last third of this book in like 6 weeks, didn't we, man, during the pandemic?
Wow.
Yeah, when we were sitting home, everyone's locked in their houses. That's kind of what we did with our time. And yeah, I mean, I think we are just really complementary parts for one another. In the areas that he's really strong, I struggle. In the areas that I am really strong, he's not as strong as. So we really make a whole. But the process was on top of all that, it was just really fun.
Yeah.
And our aspiration wasn't like, I mean, we wanted to write a book, and whatever comes with it, that we're excited for that.
We kind of had two goals, right, Kyle?
That's right. We wanted to finish, we wanted to get it published, and we wanted to break even for all the expense that it costs. So we're still on the way to the goal number 2. We're still working toward that breaking even part. But yeah, I mean, the process was really fun because, after the initial idea, I kind of shared that with Jay. Jay was like, let's do this. And we got together. We on a board, we listed out sort of, here's where we want to start. Here's where we want to finish. Where do we go from there? Again, I'm the hesitant one. I'm the slow. And Jay's like, let's go. So he wrote the first 2 chapters and I read them. I was like, this is so good. We got to do this. So I wrote the next 2. And then, it's really a cool thing that we just assigned it out. We knew generally where we wanted to go. And he wrote a chapter, I wrote a chapter, and then we'd exchange and we'd read each other's chapters and we'd change a few things. We'd talk about a few things, we'd argue over a few things sometimes, but ultimately, like any partnership, whether it's, a marriage or a business or coworkers or whatever, you have to compromise.
Right.
No one can have their way all the time. And so we're like, well, let's think about and let's decide what is best for the story. And knowing that was our goal for both of us, like, all we care about is that this is what's best for the story.
Yeah.
That made me trust him. And I think it made him trust me to go, that's our number one goal. We don't care, who gets this or that,
credit.
It's like our who gets the credit. I mean, our names are both on the cover and his name comes before mine because J comes before K. Okay. WA comes before WI,
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's no like, we're 50-50 all the way. Yeah. And so that's the beautiful thing is like, I can look at a chapter and I wrote the original draft on this chapter, but he spoke into every chapter that I wrote and I spoke into every chapter that he wrote so that it truly is our story. It is our story that we created together.
And I think that's cool because, not only do you guys know each other, but it sounds like to me, you guys really know yourselves too. And like you were saying, what your strength is. He knows what his strengths are. You guys know your weaknesses, which allowed you to be open and able to complement each other versus some people that would look at this as, I don't want to share my weakness and I want to bully my way into to hiding these weaknesses, And so the fact that you guys, had the end goal and you cared about the quality of the book and the story more than the credit and everything else. And then, like you said, plus just knowing each other so well, it makes complete sense the way you guys did it. And I bet you that, the way you guys were alternating chapters, I bet you a lot of times those chapters would bleed right into each other without you guys probably even having to talk because you kind of knew how each other was going to look and what they were looking for. I bet you that happened quite a bit too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I kind of want to, if it's okay, I want to kind of jump back to where we're talking about putting the story together. If it's okay, Donald, real quick. I think this is a really important question for life when it comes to, some of the things that you do with your veterans. And, I don't know if you have spent time talking about PTSD or talking about, kind of getting back into the world, society, and what it looks like. Sometimes it feels overwhelming, and it's not that. It's a lot harder scale, right? It's a lot more complicated issue, but it's a similar, if you wanted to make a parallel of what it's like to write a book, we wrote 100,000 words for this book, and you hear about something like that and you're like, how do you accomplish that? And so one of the favorite questions that I like to ask about anybody when they're trying to tackle a problem that they don't know how to do because it seems too big is ask the question, how do you eat an elephant? I don't know if you've heard that question or if anybody else, but like, it's a great question to ask in any part of your life because, you don't eat an elephant by cutting it in half and cramming it in. Like it's one bite at a time. And so for us, you don't think about 100,000 words. You think about, okay, we have a story. The story starts here. We want the story to end here. How do we make this long? How do we do chapters and chapters and chapters? And so we look at other people's books and we look at other things. One of the books we looked at was the first Harry Potter book, and it had like 30 something chapters, and it was so many pages, so many words. And we thought to ourselves, okay, that's kind of a guide rail. So we went on a whiteboard, we took a Post-it note, a yellow Post-it note, and we write one idea and one thing that was going to happen in the chapter. And we began putting the sticky notes on the whiteboard in such a way where we started to come up with a grid of how we were going to eat the elephant, one chapter at a time, one idea at a time. And as we did that, it started to become a lot easier to think about how we were going to accomplish this goal. I think that's great for life. You don't go, okay, how am I going to become a millionaire? Well, I'm going to be a millionaire. I'm just going to say, I'm going to declare to the world I'm a millionaire. No, like it takes, it's $1 at a time. It's one step at a time. And so we didn't set out with this aspiration of making the greatest story of all time. We were like, we're going to tell a story. How do you tell a story? Well, it starts with a beginning and starts with an end. And we're going to make these things connect in such a way where it's an interesting ride. And even some of the things that we came up with after we had written the story, simply so that it would make more sense. And so chapters would get added in between. And so it wasn't linear. It wasn't chronological. It was, okay, we know what we want to do. Okay, we need this, we need this, we need that. Okay, what if we move these things around? And it wasn't particularly clean. It was messy, but it was one bite at a time. And that's a really helpful thing for not just writing a book, but for life, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when you guys decided to start looking at the publishing, did you guys self-publish through Amazon, or did you guys get published through an actual publishing company? How did you guys tackle that part of the elephant?
That was another 3 years of our lives, right, Kyle?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
That was. We're published by Morgan James.
Okay.
Morgan James is kind of a boutique publisher. They don't publish a ton of books a year. But their goal is to publish what the authors want to write. So they give a lot of autonomy and freedom to write the book that we want, and so when we delivered the manuscript, obviously they read it, but they published the book that we handed them, and they chose the cover that we wanted. So it was a really awesome partnership, and it's all built. Their publishing, kind of vision is all built upon the guy that runs the show there. The first book he published, when he finally put it in his hands, was like, this isn't my book. Someone else rewrote this, and somebody else put a cover on this that I don't like. And so he built this whole, company to publish that way so that authors can really create what they want to create, and the vision that they want to put out there. And they only publish about 15 fiction books a year. So again, it's a very small number. You have to kind of go through a process to get selected, and they read our manuscript, they liked it, and they offered us the opportunity to publish with them. And so, that's Morgan James. That's our publisher. We're really
they also
excited
threw it
about that.
They threw it through AI as well, which was really interesting to us. We got like a 20-page report on our book and to tell us if it was going to be successful or not, which was really weird and cool and fascinating, but at the same time creepy.
The guy that's in charge of that might be your new character. You'd be able to get his name and say, hey, guess what, buddy? Chapter 10, you're in.
But that AI report was really fascinating because it showed us like a grid or a graph of, here's how the action peaks and crests and falls and rises again in a best-selling book. And again, Jay and I, we didn't know what we were doing. We were just writing, and we thought, this is when the action needs to peak, and this is when it needs to come down. This is when it needs to climax. All those different things. Mm-hmm. And so when they showed us the bar or the chart of our book, and we put them side by side with a best-selling book of a similar genre, it was exactly the same. And I was like, man, maybe we're onto something. Maybe we created something here.
And again, we wrote a movie, and when it comes to a movie, how it goes certain ways and does certain things, and we didn't want to get too bored, and so a little action tossed in there in between the talking.
Yeah, absolutely. So, that's somebody I need to reach out to those guys, and I need to find the guy that is in charge of that AI, because I think he'd be a really interesting guest to come on the show and just talk about how that process is done. Because I had no idea that that's what, I knew there's a lot of talk now about how AI is at some point going to replace writers and stuff like that, but I had no idea that they were using AI for, how to map out the potential future of how good a book can do. I
think more than
personally
anything, it was just an evaluation tool, is what it
wasn't.
was. Based on what it could read and understand, it was an evaluation tool for the book.
Okay.
It's sliding just a little bit into AI. Like I've started using ChatGPT quite a bit when it comes to writing form letters or resumes or emails, and it has to be a certain way. And it's really, really useful if you give it the right criteria to talk about how, making something that's appropriate. But creativity is never going to be replaced by robots.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree, because even with ChatGPT, nobody still swipes right on my Tinder page. So I mean, I'm just playing. But I do agree with you though. I use ChatGPT as well. I use it for to help me come up with ideas for images and stuff that I'm going to use for a cover page or something like that. And as a matter of fact, I also used it to help me start the bylaws for our nonprofit.
Yeah, for the nonprofit.
Yeah, so
super helpful.
It is. It truly is. I'm not one of those guys that believes there's no room in the world for AI and that there's going to be robots taking over the world. I think that'd make a great book, but I just don't know that that's going to be the reality, But I do believe that there's a lot of good stuff to come from AI, and I also want to say congratulations to you guys, because if they're only publishing 15 fiction books a year, I bet you could probably add 4 zeros to the amount of people that pitch their books to them as well, and to get selected through that kind of criteria. I mean, man, my hat's off to you guys. That's awesome, because that's no easy feat to do,
Yeah.
So
thank you.
We sent a lot of emails to people that said nothing to us, no response, no nothing. And so that's part of the grind too, is just, email, talk. And with lots of things, it actually turned out to be relationships. Kyle knew a friend and had somebody he worked with that knew somebody and opened the door. And the next thing you know, we're in a meeting with the founder of Morgan James. And we pitched his ideas. We pitched our idea, and he was like, "I think that's great. Let's talk about it." And it for all the toil, sometimes it can just be the right person at the right time, the right conversation. And so, people still matter, and relationships still matter, and who and networking is an important thing. So, for anybody that's listening to this that wants to write a book and wants to do it, I say do it. Like, there's nothing wrong with self-publishing as well. Like Amazon has a great program for doing that. And for Donald, for your story that you've written for your kids, like, you can spend some money and get yourself an editor and get yourself somebody that can lay out the book. And when it shows up at your house, you can order 3 of them if you want to. You can order 4 through Amazon, but it can look as professional as you want it to look. And it's way better than going through a publisher because, let me say it this way. If you do it on your own, you make the most money. The problem is you are now the self-promoter. You are the one that's pushing everything, and you do not have the access that publishers have to put it in stores.
Right. You're not going to just walk in and set it on the shelf of Barnes and Nobles.
That's correct. Sure. For us, one of the things that our goal was to be a published author. We wanted, number one, so I could introduce Kyle at parties and be like, "This is Kyle Wiltshire, published author." Like that was a goal for us. But 2, we wanted that joy of walking into a Barnes and Noble and seeing it on the shelf. And I got to do that this past week in Memphis, Tennessee, at the Wolf Chase Galleria. I got to walk in and I got to see our book on the shelf. And I don't think I've taken time to really process that, but it was a physical dream come true that I got to touch. And it was really, really cool.
Yeah. And it's something that not a lot of people can do. And I think that's another thing too, like you said, about being self-published. You go through Amazon, there's not a whole lot of brick and mortar Amazons out there that you're going to walk in and see your book sitting on the shelf, you may be able to go online and see the picture of it sitting in Amazon, but I don't think that's the same as being able to go into Barnes and Nobles and say, this will be neat. Let me grab this book and go up to the cashier and go to pay for it, and I'll throw my ID on, and we'll see if she realizes that the author is the guy buying the book.
Yeah,
that
the
would be
names
really
match.
cool.
That is exactly what happened to me. That is exactly what happened. Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
What was the response? Did that person go, holy
she
crap?
looked at the book and she looked at me and she goes, well, Jay Watson, I guess I'm going to have to go look into this book now.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
that is awesome, man.
And the funny thing about that, I didn't even tell you this, Kyle, but I walked in and this lady was like, hey, can I help you? And, you go into Barnes and Noble, and some of them, they have more than board games and like cards. They actually have books in there. And this one at Wiltshire in Memphis had, books everywhere and like aisles and aisles, and I didn't know where to go. And so this lady's like, how can I help you? And I'm like, hey, do you have a copy of The Dead Rock Stars? I knew she did because I'd looked it up and I wanted to see it. But I got to watch her go over to the computer, look it up, and then she walked me over to the aisle, and I got to hold it in my hands. And then she ended up being the one that checked me out at the counter. And so it was like this cool kind of experience to share with her.
Yeah. Well,
that's
absolutely,
cool,
man. Well, that is, man. Congratulations, guys. So
thank you.
I know I've been throwing your little website up here, but you can also go to Amazon and you can get the book there as well. As we just said, it's also in Barnes and Nobles. Where else is the book that people might be able to find it?
Yeah, I mean, it truly is anywhere books are sold. Now it's mostly online. We did have enough pre-orders to get a physical presence in Barnes and Noble. We might have bought them all when we bought that one in Memphis, but but that was sort of our push beforehand, was get people to pre-order on Barnes and Noble, and so hopefully they'd be in the store. And so they were in the store, and we saw it. It was there. Jay bought it. That's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, I've seen it on Target websites, seen it on Walmart website, anywhere you want to buy a book. And what's funny is when you see them popping up on eBay and like, all these other places, as just kind of peruse the internet, see where it's showing up. It's showing up all over. And I've seen a few where somebody's turning a profit to resell our book because they're selling it for way more than they bought it. I'll just tell you that when you look on eBay.
Really?
Yeah, there's a few.
I kind of want to look at that right now, Kyle. I'm fascinated.
Look it up, man. Look it up.
That the Wolfware series, I'm like all about tonight. I'm learning things.
You're getting ideas.
Yep. That I'm gonna tell you. If you go in through my YouTube, you can see it's up there. You can see him talk about his stories. And when I came across that one I was talking about with the trying to commit suicide with Viagra, I was like,
what a way to go, man! What a way to go!
What on earth?
that is awesome. Well, guys, I'm definitely going to, as a matter of fact, I just went to you guys' website. As soon as this is over, I will be purchasing a copy.
Thank
you.
I can't wait to get it. I'll read it, and it'll sit right back here with a few of the others that I have, had on the show and enjoyed as well. So, man, I can't wait. Is there any other way, any other place that you guys on social media that you want guys to come to?
Sure. Yeah. Check us out on Facebook, the Dead Rock Stars book on Facebook, and then the DRS book on Instagram and Twitter, X, whatever it's called now, just DRS book. We had a hard time getting all the handles to line up, but yeah, so we're on Facebook, Twitter, or X, and Instagram, and we're pretty active on there. We'd love to chat with folks who have questions, who just have bought it and enjoyed it. We love to interact with our readers and try to help introduce new people to our story.
Well, that's awesome. One last question. What's next? Is there going to be some more, another series?
We've decided, or our plan is to do a trilogy with this series. We feel like trilogies are the best. Once you get down the line, there's 9 or 10 of them. It's like, what are we doing here anymore? So we have a very rough thumbnail sketch for three stories to form a trilogy. And as we're getting out there with this first one, probably in a few months, we'll turn our attention toward book 2 and start mapping that out. And we'll use the same process we did. We'll get in a room and we'll put sticky notes on the board. And, we have a foundation to build upon now. We're not doing it from scratch as we did the first time around. So I'll be really curious and excited to see how that works.
Yeah, we're going to have to read it again. Remember what we wrote.
It's all right here, Jay. It's all right there for me.
Well, if it becomes a super big hit and you decide to go past that, look what happened with Jason and Freddie. There was like a part 10, Jason versus Freddie. I mean, you never know where this stuff will go.
I don't know that we'll be responsible for writing Jason Freddie 10, but we'll be happy to sell the licensing to whoever wants to do it. Kyle's got some great ideas for what's next. The wolfware kind of is an interesting story that we've talked a little bit about our own similar take on that, but it's not a werewolf. What is it, Kyle? Do you want to give it away or do you want to save it? We'll
talk about the were-possum. It's a guy that got bit by a possum. And so instead of turning into something aggressive and mean, he turned into something really slow and lazy. So that's potentially maybe something in our future. The were-possum. That's
awesome. That is awesome. Well, if the were-possum ever comes out, it'll be back up here too, because I love these kind of stories, man.
Oh, that's great.
Well, guys, if you don't mind holding on, we'll go and throw the exit video, and then we'll chit chat for a few minutes and let the recordings download. I appreciate everything you guys are doing. I can't wait to get my copy. Like I said, I will definitely, as soon as this is over with, I'll be ordering it. I can't wait.
Thank you for having us, man. We had a great time.
Yeah, man. Me too. And I hope all the listeners out there go to Amazon, pick up a copy, or your local bookstore, get you a copy of it. Go to their website and get a signed copy like I'm going to do. And, man, just sit back and have a few drinks and read a good book. I can't wait, guys.
Thank you so much.
You guys take care. Be safe.
All right. You too.